one of the things that you mentioned, and one of the things that we have as a topic, so you talk about like this, the gut brain axis,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I want you to talk more about that. But one of those things, we always hear, oh, trust your gut, listen to your gut. What is your gut telling you? The only thing my gut ever really tells me is that it's
Time to
hungry.
eat.
Yeah, it's time to eat. Like that's about it. But so like to say,
Mine
listen to
too.
yeah, okay, so we're on the same page. So though, but we know it means something different. It's kind of like trust your instincts. But I would love to hear from you. What is listening to your gut? What does that mean to you? How does it? I guess what does it feel like? What does it sound like? But
Yeah.
what does it mean? And how do you know when what your gut is telling you is the right thing, or when it's not the right thing? And then what is the
Yeah.
connection
Yeah.
between your gut and your brain? Because clearly there is.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely I've learned a lot about the gut in the last couple of years, and your gut does know what's up, just like when when you say you have like butterflies in your stomach and you're feeling a little nervous, or
Mm-hmm.
it's like a nervous twinge or like an exciting twinge in your gut.
Right.
Like your gut is like constantly sending signals all throughout your body and especially to your
Mm.
brain. So the gut brain axis, our gut is made up of all of our digestive organs, everything from the esophagus down, your stomach, your intestines, all of that is your gut. And it has trillions of bacteria in there, some good bacteria, some bad bacteria, and all kinds of signaling is going on. So the gut
Mm.
talks to the brain via the axis.
Mm-hmm.
That's your vagus nerve. And so things like dopamine and serotonin are feel good neurotransmitters are actually like 80 to 90% of them are made in the gut. So
Wow.
if, somebody is not feeling themselves and they're feeling low energy or a little on the, depressed, unmotivated side, it could be like a gut issue that like their serotonin and dopamine
Mm.
is not being actively produced. Pharmaceutical companies want you to believe that it's all in your brain. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. That's what I was taught. But taking care of your gut and nourishing it with good food, good nutrients, supplements, lowering your stress, all
Right.
of that is so good for your gut and that will affect how you feel.
Right. So
Mm.
I mean, it's probably why, when I'm in a sour mood, I like to eat, because it's me falsely thinking that by putting food in my body, it's going to, you know, give my gut what it needs. But really, it's, when you're coming to those big decisions, like every time you had to make that transition, right? So what was that like? And how did like trusting your gut tie into that? Like, how did that come into play? And then it's really interesting that in the end, you ended up in this gut brain access business. So, but like,
Yeah,
what
well,
did
I
it look
will
like making
say
those
that
decisions?
I am definitely like more self-aware. Like when I'm making decisions now compared to before, like years ago, like now I can like just sit and go quiet for a second and
Mm-hmm.
go, and then I say
Mm.
the one thing that like I want to do, like, okay, I wanted to buy a ticket to this conference. How does that sit with me? Like, what do I feel in my body? Years ago, I would
Mm.
never have like been that self-aware to
Right.
like ask the question to myself. I was the kind of person that
Yeah.
had to go and call 5 different friends and say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think?" Like,
Right.
well, they
Wow.
have no connection to whatever it is, but I was constantly or yeah, pretty regularly just looking outside of myself to find the answers. When now 90% of the time I can just go within and find
Wow.
my answers.
That's
I
powerful.
find I find it so incredible that there's like this whole system, I guess, working like in the core of our body.
Yeah.
Um, Sort of like not telling us what to do, but kind of like indicating to us what is safe, what is healthy, what is good, what is bad. Like always a lot of people who used to say like, "Wow, you're so good at anticipating certain things," For example, I share this a lot, the story of how we moved to North Carolina from California. Um, I literally was the first of my group. We were a group of like 15 to 20 sort of community members, families and stuff. And I was the very first to move out, and I was the first to say, yeah, this pandemic is pretty much here to stay for a little while, where everybody was like, no, it's only going to be 2 weeks and another 2 weeks and another 2 weeks. And before you know it, it's the 2 to 3 years that pretty much that's what I said was going to happen. And then by now, everybody left California, mostly, and they're all moved away. And just the other day, I was in Florida, and there was a handful of them there, and I looked at them, and I was like, "So who's the crazy one now?" You know? So, but I like. It's funny how I really attribute it to the self-awareness of things, because I always do. Like, I sit and I meditate a lot, and I really like take the time to see how. I mean, like, when psychologists tell you, well, how do you feel about that? I don't think they really, touch to the core of what it really means to how do you feel about that. You know what I mean? Um, and it's funny how that's so related to the gut. And before I met you, actually never sort of made that connection. It was like, yeah, good feeling, whatever.
Yeah.
But you really educated me a lot about, you know, the gut is a seriously real thing,
Yeah. I mean, it
Mhm.
regulates. I mean, I even put my mother-in-law, who's like 82,
Wow.
and she has type 2 diabetes, and her doctor wanted to give her another medication. Her hemoglobin A1C was only like 7.2, it wasn't super high. And I'm
Mm.
like, no, I could just start her on these probiotics. It'll balance her blood sugars, manage her cortisol levels. Cortisol is actually also made in the gut. So if
Wow.
you're stressed, it's coming from your
That's
gut.
my problem.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
literally put her on
Mhm.
my probiotics, and 3 months, her hemoglobin A1C came down to 6.7, and
Wow.
she's good. Like, she didn't change anything else. She just took care of her gut a little bit.
Wow.
Mhm.
It's incredible that we forget that, you know, God made us a very specific way where there, my father dedicated his life to the connection between your physical body and your spiritual soul. And there's a huge connection there. And one of the
Sure.
parts of his practice was, somebody would come to him with a physical ailment and he would be able to pinpoint what was spiritually lacking from their life, what part of their service of God or whatever, whatever was spiritually that was missing. And of course the healthy eating habits was a huge part of that. And we forget that, before all these pharmaceutical, I love that we're going after the pharmaceutical industry. It's so great. We're gonna make some enemies, but before all these big medications came around, things were done differently. People lived off the land, or they were just more in tune with alternative. I love it's alternative. Like, this was the original. This was the
Yeah.
Mhm.
original way of
I always
being
say that.
healthy.
Yeah.
It's like, how is my
Slowly,
body feeling
slowly, the
today?
gut health stuff is becoming more mainstream, but
Yeah.
still,